Alrighty. Here we are again. Let's try this one more time. Where's my hat?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can't have a bunch of noise. I need to suntan anyways.
Um,
This doesn't have a. Oh, it's up here. Sorry. There.
Thank you. Let's see here. Gotta get. Alrighty then. Here's what I got for you guys today. Why the fuck is one of the lights off? Anyway, here we are. Back again is the incredible. I have for you today 52, count them 52, supposedly essential films from some shitty writer nobody gives a fuck about. I'm here to shit on all of them, and I'm here to shit on the early Hollywood and tell you what it's about. So here we go. Just a second. I got to, one thing I got to adjust is I got to flip my window the other way. So that way, well, whatever. It's this way now. I guess you can't flip it in post. Can you? Oh, here you can. Let's see here. Transform. Yeah, see now you can see the right way. Starting with the first movie here, Sunrise. Sunrise. Now, I just want to inform you of how shitty all these old movies are, and how people now will say that they don't accept movies that are terrible. But these movies are terrible. After a farmer is tempted by a seductress to kill his wife, the married couple go on to renew their love to the point of transcendence. So a scumbag who would ordinarily murder his wife is reaching transcendence because he didn't murder his wife. You see the fucked up mental state. Like, he's an okay person even though he was gonna murder his fucking wife. That wouldn't happen in a movie today. The fuck? You're gonna murder your fucking wife? Why? Why are you going to murder your fucking wife? No good reason, that's why. If anybody wants to see what a silent film is like, this is what I'm reading here. They should watch this one because it is a great beginning to see how powerful a film can be without words. You never know quite where it's going. It does keep you kind of in suspense. Yeah, where the fuck is it going? Exactly, we already know. Down the toilet. I love how the two leading ladies are so brilliantly juxtaposed. Whatever, I don't give a shit. Juxtaposed. The point is, you have the dark Jezebel, the city woman who wears very provocative clothing. And then you have this beautiful, delicate porcelain doll in Janet Gaynor. Yeah, gay. It's perfect gateway into silent films, huh? I don't think so. You see, the problem that I'm having here is that silent films are for people with tinnitus. They work on factory lines back in the day, and they're very low budget. They fund these movies from back east or in California in the 1920s, as you'll see evidence of here in these different movies. This aspect of factory worker, taking old shitty things nobody wants, like, you know, transistors and resistors, because they're very commonly just old and they all have new models and makes of them, and make shitty ray cathode tube TVs that have a billion little back ends every direction, and it just makes them impossible to repair. All they do is take other people's crap at low price and then try to sell it at a decent price, or get people to live where they are through selling things. So all of these movies were filmed in the 1920s into the 30s, 40s, 50s in Hollywood. based off of this concept that they would be getting people to live there because they had an oil field and they were taking endless, car fenders and metal parts from ancient cars nobody wanted and welding them shittily together and saying, come live here, raise a family here. It will legitimize us to where we're not retarded factory workers and like weirdos. If you come here, live here, and we'll give you free car repairs. This is what they actually did, and free gasoline as long as you just stay here. So the concept that America is built around cars and that cars are a paradise comes from this early 1900s California where everybody had tin poisoning and all this other poisoning. And it made the tin makes them to where, everybody has to talk like this, baby, because they can't hear anything but that tonality. Factory workers that are funding the actors, they don't actually talk like that. They never did. And as for the black and white, they start losing the color in their vision from the amount of chemical and heavy metal poisoning because they're just filthy and they make filthy movies. Let's see here. Steamboat Bill Jr. The timid son of a crusty riverboat captain tries to prove himself while falling for a river captain's daughter. You see, the problem here is that this movie... Oh, it's just Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton is the guy that they hire who can do stunts, kind of like how they hire a few guys who can dance to try to legitimize some of their movies, like in the middle of them. So, anyways, it's that silent film or whatever where Buster Keaton, like a house falls and he gets blown around in the wind and stuff. Oh my God, actually read this right here. In orange, it says, you can't really read that. I could hold it up like, you can't really see it still. Anyways, what it says here is, this film is now considered one of Buster Keaton's masterpieces. But in 1928, the latest film to do very poorly at box office, which was hard on him at that time. Yeah, right. It had action in a period of boring, shitty films when no one, and I mean no one, watches the garbage that they were making about fucking murdering their wives. So, in comparison, this might as well be Rush Hour 2, with Jackie Chan. Buster was financing his films with his own money because it was nothing there. Nobody was there. I still don't believe that, though. He was still being funded by the car companies. They give you all the props you need. They give you certain things, like cars for scenes even. So, after signing a contract with MGM where he basically lost the factory mentality of the studio system. I'm not making this up. This says this here in orange with the black words. He lost the mentality, you see what I'm saying, of the factory system, lost the factory mentality of the studio system. Because I swear to God, like when you read that, what do you think? It means that they're literally their warehouses, who even knows, like maybe even whatever, WBs. The way they look so bland with big open roll-up doors is because they just bring cars right off a lot in a little slot on the ground that they chain them up to, and bring them along for each person to work on. Like factory movie mentality. That's why every film is just trying to get a film out the door instead of making any entertainment. It's a bad philosophy and it's evil. It's vile. He soon realized he'd made the worst mistake of his life. Well, that sure is conjecture. He never again enjoyed genuine creative freedom. Genuine? Doesn't that sound kind of opinionated? Just a little bit. I think we both know it does. But this film was made when he was very much at peak form. I'm not going to argue with that. He was probably in peak form. How would I know? Todd Browning's Freaks. Physically disabled carnival performers exact revenge against a trapeze artist and a strongman after discovering the couple plans to kill one of their own for his money. What, and blame it on him? See, this is what I'm talking about. It makes no sense. It's just another murder movie, and it's called Freaks. Like, they're gonna blame a murder on him. How would that work? It's like the idea that an insane person has when they just want to commit murder. That's why it's a terrible film. Who cares? It's about relationships, says this one little panel here. I don't care. Negative relationships? Who gives a shit? It's not like anybody gives a fuck. Ooh, relationships. How wonderful. What vagaries. It's not really a horror film. Good to know that they tried to make it a horror film. But it was too laughably bad with 3-point lighting because nobody can see anything because they have like LiDAR eyes back then, but slightly better. Unless the light's like landing in different positions, illuminating the cheekbones in different spots in the nose and eyes with makeup. They really did, these people. That's why they're so gross. Think that they would live forever just because they like inhaled without masks, tons of aluminum and stuff. Because you have to realize they're such rednecks. They believe that somehow if it preserves a car, it'll preserve them. So that's why so many people died of poisoning. They just were stupid. Okay, now there's no Gold Diggers of 1933. It's got a chorus line on it down here below, like if you can see it. They're kicking out and canning. It's hard to see. He's directing them. 3 out-of-work chorus girls befriend an aspiring, mysteriously rich songwriter who might be able to fund a new Broadway show. Might. Doesn't this sound like pornography? Very, very low class. Not that appealing of pornography, of course, but still pornography. So whenever anybody pretends like I or somebody else is being inappropriate, they just lost their sex drive from working on factories in the 50s, maybe even the 60s or 70s, because people were still poisoning themselves with some chemicals in the 70s, then saying that they deserved federal money for working for private corporations that didn't have federal oversight that were using these chemicals because they want a reward for ruining themselves and acting like it'll preserve them because they eat nothing but raw meat filled with nitrates with a searing on the outside while calling it blue raw. I mean, every trailer trash ever does that. So, Gold Diggers of 1933. It's so gross. Nobody's into high class supposedly like chorus kick girls or the concept of like fetishizing them like they're sexual anymore because it's a performance. But these people of the past, they got weird ideas of what's sexual and what's not. You should see flappers. You look up 1920s flappers. They have weird shit that hides their hair all over their head as if it's like jewelry. They're dressed bizarrely as if it's supposed to be hot when it's really not. Let's see here. It just sounds dirty. Like I said, like this is written by a 1950s dirty old man that never expected anybody to read this. Well, then they censor their own films later on and say, remember that? I remember. So, Drew Barrymore. I thought it approached the Depression in a really innovative way, and the women really reminded me of modern working women. A lot of the film is about them just passionately wanting a job. It just sounds dirty. And I mean dirty in like a boring sort of crappy way. Like, let's make a really like quick investment film like all of them. Assembly line like the cars they produce for people. Everybody's got this bizarre American dream somehow that all stemmed from people coming as degenerates from other countries, like into San Francisco as Asians that, you know, wanted a different sort of life, not really a better one. It's already the 1900s. Not necessarily better. In the early 1900s, there wasn't communism widespread across China or a lot of places. So they just came there because they wanted free cars and free fuel to drive around, and they get free repairs. What to look for? Berkeley remembered having once seen a young woman in New York perform a vaudeville act with a violin. He expanded it as only his fervent mind could, with 60 girls and 60 violins, an enormous winding staircase and neon lighting on each fiddle. The girls move around mesmerizing in patterns from above the camera, even taking the shape of a massive neon violin. An earthquake struck during the shoot, seriously injuring one performer and throwing Berkeley off his chair on the camera crane. He dangled there before heroically and magnificently, for being a weakling that's poisoned with chemicals, pulling himself back on. I mean, it just sounds like a rumor to say, hey, we went through hardships to make our movie. Why don't people appreciate our movies even though we're putting them together like old cars with old ideas and lots of unfaithfulness to our spouses? It's just, at the 98-minute mark, Berkeley can be seen as a call boy who knocks on his dressing room door, shouts, "Hurry up, boys, snap it up, will ya?" So they're fucking the women, like I already said before. He did this cameo because the studio didn't want to pay actors for such tiny speaking roles. Like an assembly line, like you just do it because you just pick up the slack, motherfucker. Berkeley later recalled that his girls saw the moment during the Chinese theater premiere and they roared with laughter. That sounds like a pimp. His girls? They're not hiding anything. They never did. They just say, watch our boring films after we've removed the pornography because we're poisoned with heavy metals, and it would be a shame if sexuality happened that we couldn't masturbate to. I'm trying to prove to you that old people are not good people, that people from the past were not better than people now. This book is pages of trashy, low-class, and here's the problem, low-class pornography. Pornography can be action, it can be explosions, it can be everything. It's a concept. It's an excitement of the mind and the visuals. What pornography is, if I was going to give my own definition, is it's the concept that you are, in fact, trying to give people pleasure out of what you're doing, and you want it to be extreme pleasure, and you don't care if it hurts them in some way because you want them to get that euphoria. And you see old people, they say, oh, my heart, I already poisoned myself. There's valves that are filled with chemicals, and if they start moving, I'll die. And it's all an excuse, you see, to say, nobody better do anything sexual. I did all the sexuality when I was young. I'm sorry, but this is just retarded filth. So let's move on. This is why I say California and Hollywood's nothing. The Chinese theater is nothing. The Chinese theater, what does it serve? Chinese food. Now I have to ask you something. Who came and served food at the Chinese restaurant? Chinese immigrants. Now, am I supposed to believe that it didn't start out as a small, like the places around here, diner and restaurant, like with your food? In other words, people were literally going there to ignore their own movies in their premiere. This is not fake. And eat mostly while ignoring it, consuming shitloads of Chinese SMG, MSG, fucking bullshit. Like shooting it down their throat like an SMG. 20th century. An egotistical Broadway producer tries to lure back the star he created to the stage. Now, you may say, oh, that's up for interpretation, you know. But I have a little image. They provide images of their sins. You see, he looks like he's saying right here, you better fucking spread your legs for me, bitch, or else I'll smash your teeth in. I mean, I don't need to really say much else. The kind of imagery kind of speaks for itself, as well as his girls laughed uproariously when guys needed to pop up their pants from fucking them. The language is worded, like everybody knows, to be pro my statements, not against them. I don't understand why you act like you can read between lines that aren't there. This is a movie by a madman. Like, and the person writing it is supporting him. Like, his bitch he created, his fucking bitch. Hey, remember on Mad TV when there was that stupid chick that was doing porn? And they had to make a Mad TV skit about how her husband was a pimp and beating on her? Remember that? Remember the multiple skits in the early 2000s, just like the early 1920s, where everybody just says, oh no, he's her husband, because occasionally he fucks her while saying she needs to pimp her ass out. Such quality movies. Yeah, and then promoted violence right here. They promote negativity. This is why nobody watched their filth. Because you have to realize Hollywood was a neighborhood with no trees, with just those markers that you put with big letters for giant zoned areas to take a photo from above. So the Hollywood sign just designates a certain type of oil town little houses that were going to be put in up by the hill. Hawks took her aside and asked her, this is the same movie, what would you do in real life if somebody insulted her? And by the way, Barrymore's character was doing, I'd kick him, she said. Why not try it, asked Hawks. Lombardi did just that, and Barrymore loved it. The classic scene was born of violence, hostility, and aggression. I put that part in. Lombard continued to let loose and improvise with blows, I assume. Let loose with blows. Every time Lombard started work on a new film, she sent him a telegram that read, I'm going to start kicking him. What a pimp. What a pimp. She wants to kick him all the time? Hopefully in the testicles. Okay, top hat. A woman strongly assumes an amorous dancer to be her friend's husband. Okay, so is this going to be her cheating on her husband? Oh, no. You see, this is one of the few people they hire to try to legitimize themselves occasionally so that they have something to watch in between making garbage. That's Fred Astaire there. And so this is a Fred Astaire film about him actually dancing. Usually they just got him in the movies. I've already watched some where there's a tiny piece of him and then there's their horrible romance drama and it goes on. And he just kind of says he's in the film and they pay him money and weed